Okay, why don't we go ahead and, whoa, echo, sorry. Let's go ahead and get started. One thing I'm going to caution everybody about is I have some UX I'm going to be demoing during the presentation, and it's got some text in it. So if you're having a hard time seeing the screen, you might want to move up just a little bit because it is, UX, user experience, it's got pretty small text. So what we're here to talk about today is how to build high-quality PCs using the Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit. So if you're looking for another session, too late, you're stuck. We've locked the doors. Come on, you guys got to keep up with me. That was a good joke. Making sure you're awake after lunch, ready to learn. So I'm Michael Beck. Today I'm the Group Program Manager for the Fundamentals Ecosystem team in Windows. And what we do is we build all the tools you use to manufacture, deploy, and assess Windows PCs. That's my day job anyways. By night, I have a different job. I'm an IT specialist. I think probably most of you have this same second job I have. I'm an IT specialist for 5 kids, a wife, a bunch of friends, a few coworkers, my admin at work, and a bunch of other people who ask me for help. How many of you guys have that second job at home, being an IT specialist for a bunch of other people? That's right. I think most of us in the tech field have that second day job. But it's relevant to what I'm going to talk about today. Several months ago, a friend of mine was looking for a new laptop. And he says, Mike, what laptop should I get? And I asked the typical question most of us would ask. Well, what are you trying to do with it? What do you want the machine to do? And he comes back and he replies, I'm not really sure, but I want it to have a lot of mega gigahertz. And I look at him like most of you are looking at me, mega gigahertz? And he says, yeah, Mike, I want a lot of mega gigahertz. And I said, what do you think that is? And he goes, I'm not really sure, but it's better, right? The more mega gigahertz I have, the better the machine is. And I said, let me ask a few other questions. What do you actually do with your PC? My friend's an amateur photographer. He takes a lot of video. He's a guy who likes to have 80 windows open, editing photos and copying and pasting. He has 14 videos open and he's stringing them together, putting music in the background. He uses his PC pretty heavily. He needs a big screen because he needs a lot of real estate. He doesn't carry his PC around a whole lot, so weight doesn't really matter. But when he does carry it on photo shoots, he needs a long battery. Battery matters to him for certain times a day when he's using his PC on his photo shoots. So very quickly, I went from this nebulous term with him of mega gigahertz to actually talking about how he uses his PC. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. Our agenda today is we're going to talk about kind of a new way to look at the PC experience. And I think it's important that we really think about that when we look at the world as the PCs are evolving, that there's a new way consumers are viewing the PC experience. We're also going to talk about some new ways to measure that PC experience. And we're going to walk you through some tools that will help you measure and assess PCs. We're going to take you through a tour of some new tools that we're providing in Windows 8 that will help you use those tools or help you do that measurement. And then we're going to go a little bit deeper and give you some ability to show you how you might customize these tools for your specific needs to meet your customer and your business needs. Now, if you leave with 2 things today, 2 things I really want you to focus on is I want you to recognize that we have a new way to measure the PC experience with tools that we give you in the 80K. I want you to recognize that we're thinking about PC measurement in the 80K a little bit differently than we have in the past. And I'm hoping you learn some skills that are going to help you troubleshoot, tweak, and resolve some core issues you might have with your PCs and your systems. So 2 simple things I want you to take away with today. So like I said earlier, today customers really do judge the whole PC experience. I think we all kind of understand that. In the past, you might be able to wow them with mega gigahertz and RAM and ROM and drives and all kinds of different terms that they heard and thought were important. But today, quality expectations of the PC are changing. I mean, just think about it. Today, we've got new form factors. Ultra-thin mobile laptops, slates, all-in-one PCs, 60-inch TVs, PCs and refrigerators. We're seeing there's useful in a lot more locations. You know, there's an expectation that I can use my PC during Mike's boring presentation here on assessing PCs. I better be able to use it in my hotel room, on an airplane. I can use it in the library. But that PC goes with me in a lot more places than it used to go. And I expect it to work. 3G, 4G, you know, wireless networking have really changed people's expectations of the PC in any location. Always on, always connected. How many of you have a PC that's never connected to the internet? This is probably the wrong audience to ask that question, but I don't think any of us anymore can imagine a PC experience that doesn't involve a network connection. Maybe not a persistent network connection. It may be only connected sometimes, but it's pretty hard to perceive a system that's not always on and always connected and always syncing data. Systems are very task-focused. So you'll see a lot of systems that are very much about being a mobile professional on the go versus a productivity system or an entertainment system, something you play music or movies from. So, like, you know, I think we're seeing a number of examples here that really the expectations of consumers are changing. And when we think about that customer experience, we think about three variables. You have software. Now, for this presentation, when I say software, I mean application software. That might be a video player, music player, could be driver software, it could be print software, but you have application software that's relevant to the user's experience that I described previously. You have hardware, I think we all know what that means, the physical hardware on the box that takes many, many form factors, and then you add Windows to that. So you take software plus hardware plus Windows, and that really equals the PC experience customers see. And those three things have to work harmoniously if we're going to meet our customers' expectations moving forward. We have to be really smart about how we think about those three things working harmoniously to deliver a great PC experience moving forward. As a result of that, the thing I'm asserting in this presentation is we have to change the way we measure PC quality. We really have to think about it differently. And we're going to give you some tools in Windows 8 that help you really take our view of that thinking moving forward. So throughout the presentation, I'm going to use this term system assessment. And system assessment in the ADK, first of all, let me describe what the ADK is. The ADK is the Assessment and Deployment Kit. It was the kit formerly known as the OEM Pre-Installation Kit, or the OPK, and the Windows Automated Installation Kit, the WAIK. So we had the OPK and the WAIK that came together to make the ADK. And it's all the things you use to manufacture and deploy a PC, all the imaging tools, WinPE, and all those tools you've known to love. You no longer have to get them in two places. They all come in the ADK. But the assessment part, is the new piece. And the assessment piece, when we talk about system assessment, really provides a new way to measure system quality. The ADK, the assessment piece, is the real new set of functionality we're delivering in Windows 8. Your imaging technology and all the things you've grown to love and use in the previous kits exist in the deployment part of the kit, and I'm not going to go in great detail on those today. And then the ADK tools measure a set of PC quality attributes. Think about the PC quality attributes that I'm talking about. They're attributes that are relevant to the customer experience. So things like battery life. You might think about video experience, audio playback, system performance. So if you take those quality attributes and assess them individually, they're somewhat interesting. But we also think about system assessment as looking at all of those quality attributes in a larger package. So if I take video playback and I measure and I do the battery rundown test and I now have a very interesting way to actually test the multimedia experience of that PC. I could add energy efficiency or the photo experience, add the file system assessments in combination with a bunch of other assessments, and very quickly I'm assessing the entire PC experience. Hardware plus software plus hardware plus Windows equals that PC experience. So some of you might be saying, well, Mike, we've been doing this for years. I mean, I think measuring system quality is not anything new. We've all been doing it. We've delivered tools to do it. And across the industry, we've been measuring system quality. The primary way we do this today is benchmarking. You know, benchmarking is a great way to set a minimum standard for how we're going to think about the quality of a given measure of a system. So a benchmark might be, you know, frame rate per second, or hours of battery life. And it's really a way in which we as techies have become familiar with talking about quality. And it has its advantages. It's accepted, certainly easy to discuss by us techies. We all know that megagigahertz isn't a real term. But it all has, there are terms that are similar, that do have meaning to us. It's a great way to be part of a certification process or a comparison process. For instance, certifying a device or meeting an RFP that a customer might be giving you. It's a great way to meet a minimum bar or a minimum benchmark. It's widely adopted. It's all over. And it's widely adopted and it's accepted, especially in the press. People talk about benchmarks pretty regularly. But it has some flaws. There's very little context to how the benchmark was created. And it's completely, no, I shouldn't say that. It's not necessarily completely irrelevant, but it's oftentimes irrelevant directly to the customer experience. How many times have you seen a benchmark for, say, battery life that has nothing to do with reality of actually using that PC? People seen that? See a few hands go up? I've certainly seen it. So the thing you want to be conscious of is, the benchmark is useful, but it may not necessarily be a reality or be useful for a customer or to really understand the quality of the system that you're building. It tends to be a black box to users. It really has no, you may not even know where it came from or why is it relevant. It may be very relevant to the industry, but it may not be clear why. And frankly, it's not very useful if you're a system engineer. You know whether you met the bar. Did I pass or fail? But it really doesn't help you go further into how do I fix the issues? How do I take it a step further and actually understand what's going on with the system? How does that relate to customers' experience? It really doesn't necessarily help you deliver a better system. It helps you get the checkbox in the article. It might help you win the proposal or win the certification, but it doesn't necessarily help you build a better system. So, some system assessment basics. When I use that word system assessment, it's basically the process of using the tools to measure and analyze a PC. And I use the word measure and analyze very, very specifically. Benchmarks measure the PC, but it's very difficult to go from measurement to analysis when you're thinking about a benchmark. I either beat the bar or I don't. And most of the tools today are very good at telling you how many megagigahertz you've achieved. But they're not necessarily as effective at telling you how well you've done and where do you go next to deliver a better system. Maybe a small change will get you further quality and a better experience for your customers. Assessments themselves, and we're going to use that term a fair amount during this presentation, assessments themselves are actually the core functionality tests. Things like battery life, video performance, streaming media. These are tests that in isolation give you useful information as it relates to your customer experience, and then gives you the ability to analyze and drop into more deeper analysis of why those systems are performing a certain way, either good or bad. And then when we extend this notion of system assessment, we combine these core functionality tests to provide basically a measure of the entire PC experience. Well, in part, what we're trying to do is come up with a quantitative way to measure qualitative things about the experience. And this is really our first foray into this level of depth across the ADK and the tools we provide from Microsoft. And it's a real challenge. But we think this really will provide a more useful set of tools for us to start measuring and driving quality into our systems that we ship to customers. So let's do a demo. Let's get started and talk about how we're going to do system assessments. So I have here the assessment console. The assessment console is installed when you install the ADK. The ADK toolkit is on the USB key you got from when you checked in. You got a USB key when you picked up your devices, I believe. On that USB key, you'll find the assessment, or the ADK and the tools. So when you install the assessment toolkit, or the assessment deployment kit, you get the assessment console. And this is really your starting point for your workflow assessing and measuring PCs. Take a drink here real quick. So if you take a look at this, this is a very simple interface. The workflow is designed to be relevant to a PC enthusiast, all the way to a systems engineer doing kernel mode device drivers and really deep analysis. We're trying to meet a broad range of customers' needs and their ability to assess. The Windows Assessment Console is very, very useful at a base level. Push a button, get a result. How much easier can you get? Push a button, get a result. So by default, when you open up the Windows Assessment Console, you'll see on the left-hand side a set of jobs. And these jobs are relevant for PC experiences that it's very easy to measure. So if you take a look at the Windows experience, in the Windows experience, there are 3 assessments in that job, and that's file handling, photo handling, and Internet Explorer startup performance. So there are a default set of jobs that we say by measuring the Windows experiences in combination with these assessments, you start to get a meaningful, relevant idea about the quality of your Windows experience for this device. Now, later on, I'll show you how you can customize this. If you say, well, Mike, I disagree. What about video? A little bit later, I'm going to show you more about how you can go further with this tool. But it's very easy to push a button and get a result. If I go down here in the bottom corner, you'll see Run Individual Assessments. So I'm going to push that button. What you're going to see is a whole list of assessments, and these are those individual tests I told you about earlier. You know, you'll see boot performance in Windows 7, and then boot performance in Windows Developer Preview. We've had tools that measure boot performance for a long time. And so what we've done is we've wrapped the Windows 7 test assessments we've had in the past into the Windows 8 engine so that you can compare things side by side, which I'm going to show you how to do in a little bit. But as you go down this list, you're going to see some common ones. Driver verification. Well, it verifies that your computer has the right set of drivers and no missing drivers. How convenient is that? Do I have all the hardware I need? I get a new system from an ODM. I'm getting ready to engineer my image. Do I have all the software drivers, all the drivers I need to make this system work? Am I missing something that could impact that user's experience? And you can scroll down a little bit further and you'll see a whole lot more. You know, memory footprint. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit further here. Oops, make the mouse. You know, standby performance, photo handling. And what I'm going to show you right now is the streaming media performance. Now, the streaming media performance assessment really is about the experience of streaming media over the internet. But a lot of you guys in the room are going to say, but wait a minute, Mike, now you've lost me. Assessments need to be repeatable. I would think you're going to give us some tests that are repeatable, and the internet is not predictable. Network performance, throughput, you know, there's a new chat online by, you know, Lady Gaga, and all of a sudden the internet goes down, or it really slows down. how can you be testing? And the answer is that's a great issue. And what we've done is we've tried to cut out that variability. And what we're doing is we're testing the software stack on the system that relates to streaming media. So essentially local source streamed through the streaming media engine, through the networking stack, local to the system, allows us to get a repeatable measure of the streaming media experience. And so I'm going to select the streaming media performance assessment, and I'm going to go down to the right corner, or the right-hand corner of the tool, and I'm going to click Run. And it has to elevate because it's going to touch a lot of the system when it has to write logs and write information, so it does require an elevation. So while this assessment's running, what's it doing? Well, it's doing all sorts of things. First thing it's going to do is it's actually going to fire up what we call the Assessment Execution Engine, or AXE. It's going to load some content. Here it's our friends playing soccer. And what it's going to do is play this video over and over and over again in different formats, different codecs, different compression rates, different, so it's going to play and give us a comparison of multiple runs and loads of this file. In addition, what it's going to do is it's going to create all the event traces I need and log all the information I need to troubleshoot and tweak and guide me through how to resolve issues or analyze the system further. Remember I said measurement and analysis. The active measurement is also creating the data and the traces I need to do the analysis. All the assessments run like this and provide all the tools you need to go to the next step of analysis from these tools. So I'm going to take away our soccer friends. And that takes about 5 minutes to run. So rather than sit here for 5 minutes watching guys dance a soccer ball around, I mean, as much fun as that may be, after you run, very quickly, it's going to land you on a results page. And all the assessments, when you push a button, you get a result. And this is what the results page looks like. It has some graphs as far as what are the relative measures for this assessment, and it gives you some information. On the right-hand side, you'll notice we had some issues during this run. We had some long-running DCP calls. And in a little bit, I'm going to show you how we can go further into the analysis to discover what those problems were. But you're also going to see a lot of other information. If you notice over here in the middle, you'll see that at 1080i, 30 frames per second, we saw a no-glitch time of about 85%. Seems very benchmarky, doesn't it? But that's okay, because this was a single assessment run in isolation. Now imagine if I ran this in association with photo handling, or IE time, or other assessments. I start to get a very relative view of what the overall PC experience is from these systems. We're going to spend some more time in the tools here in just a second. So let's talk about WPA. Windows Performance Analyzer. How many of you have used XPerf in Win 7? Well, quite a few of you. Good. XPerf is a great tool for actually discovering what's wrong with your system. If I see a number that 85% glitch-free time, is that good enough or bad enough? What are the issues? And in this case, you saw earlier, and I'm going to go back to it here in a second, we had a DPC time of 90 seconds. WPA helps you go the step further into really understanding what's happening under your system. Now, WPA was XPerf in Windows 7, and it's a fairly advanced tool. There's a talk right after this talk in this room done by Michael Milrood from my team, who's going to take you on a deep dive into WPA and how it works to analyze problems. But there again, it really is designed about taking you deep, and I'm going to do it here in a second. It's also the tool we use internally. Our Windows engineers use this to troubleshoot and debug and find problems in Windows code. So this is one of the tools we use to build Windows. So if I go back to my demo PC here, very quickly you're going to see that if I open up this issue, it's going to say I had a DPC that ran for 90 seconds during the streaming media assessment. Long-running DCPs are costly. So it gives me some information. And this information may be, in this case, a link. If you notice there's a little fine print. It says WPA in-depth analysis, which we're going to do here in a second. It might point me to a pointer online, to a KB article. It might point me to a driver update. It might point me to whatever information we have that's relevant for this issue that we see. We're going to try to get you to the resolution for that issue to the best of our ability. In some cases, we may point to a generic document location that will update as we learn more about Windows in market, as we get more information, more case studies, and more relevant data. But very quickly, I can just take this, and I can launch WPA, and it takes a second here to load. And what it's doing is, when I ran that assessment earlier, all the relevant traces and information I needed was created and put in the same place as the logs and the results that you saw displayed in the Windows Assessment Console. And so all the traces, all the information I needed were created automatically. Now, how easy is this to get traces? If you've done this some of the old-fashioned ways, it was pretty hard. Here, I was able to push a button, get a result, and I'm a few clicks away from being able to go into really in-depth analysis. And there again, like I said here, I'm not going to go into real deep analysis here because we could do 3 days on WPA. We could go really into how to write good code and what are the issues. But what I want to show you a little bit is just the kind of capabilities that you can have and what you see by default very quickly. So in this case, the results are in the context of what action I took. I ran the streaming media assessment. If I had run the file system assessment, it would be named as such. If I had named, so it tells me what results, where these results came from. So I already have context that's relevant to troubleshoot the issue. I can scroll down here, and I have a bunch of information down here. It summarizes my issues down here in the bottom. And I have really deep graphs and opportunities to really go in deep into everything that was loaded in the system. I can understand, I can filter here by long-running DPCs. In this case, that was the core issue. That's the default filter here. But you can see other filtering opportunities I have. If I look over here on the left-hand side, I have detailed information and graphic representations of system activity. These will take just a second to paint. And you'll see here I have detailed representations of the stacks at the time of this run, during this run, threads, processes. You know, I have a ton of information at my fingertips, information about storage, computational, memory information, hard faults that I saw. And at my fingertips, I have a deep debugging tool that started with as easy as push a button, get a result. At a high level, I can look at this information and help look for my long-running DPC. And then I can go even further and into deeper analysis. And I can look at other performance characteristics and other things that can impact my whole PC experience. So we start with push a button, get a result. Now, so if you think about the workflow, that's pretty valuable. Push a button, get a result. Push a button, get a result. I can tweak the system. I can install hardware. I can install a new driver. I might remove software. I might remove something I install by default. I might add something. And each time I push a button, I can get a result. And if that result is not acceptable, I can just tweak and tune the system all I want. But I can also push a button, get a result, and go into WPA, and very quickly, I'm into a full environment that gives me what I need as a developer to improve my device driver, my application, my software, my memory consumption, my software load. Maybe I'm loading up too many things. Maybe I'm working with a software vendor who has given me code that's performing poorly. I now have the information I can give them to easily troubleshoot their issues and to help give me better software for my software load. And we're going to show a little bit about collaboration here in a little bit and how you can share these results around. And as I said, in the room right after this, we're going to do a deep dive on WPA and where you can go with WPA. So we did WPA. So now let's talk about system analysis beyond the single machine. So what I've showed you here is a very easy process for assessing a single system. Push a button, get a result. I could change that system, push a button, get a result, change that system again, and I can keep doing that on a single system. But it's pretty obvious that you don't necessarily want to install the ADK on every single system. It also gets pretty clear that I don't necessarily want to I may want to have results shared on a common location so that I can analyze and compare PCs side by side. And so in the assessment console, we try to make that very easy. So I'm going to go back to our home screen over here, and I'm going to bring up individual assessments. And this is true for any job I can do this, but let's bring up an individual assessment. And what I can do here, I'm going to look at my streaming media again. And if you notice down here in the right-hand corner, there is Configure and Run. And this time I'm going to click Configure. So this gives me the ability to very quickly create my own job. And we're going to talk about how to do that in a little bit. But at a base level, there's a button in the lower right-hand corner that says Package. And what Package does is gives me the ability to make my assessment mobile. So I can take it to any PC in my house, in my lab, in my office. I can give it to my friend. And I can move the assessment to that system to be run. And I can take the results back to bring into WPA. So if I click Package, you'll notice that there's a results path. And that results path says, where do you want to write your results? So if I package this to a USB key, I would set that path to whatever the USB key will be on the PC, the system that I'm analyzing. The assessment content route is the location that, like for instance, our friends playing soccer, that video has to come from somewhere. So in this case, the video could come from a USB key once again. So if I want to publish the content route to the USB key, I can do that. If I want that content route to be maybe a network share, or to be, maybe I copied it already in my lab or in my environment, I copied it to a single system. I want to make sure that I have that information where I need it. But it's very easy to do. And in this case, I click OK. And what it's going to do, I'm going to do this on the desktop so I can open it up. And so what it's doing here is it's actually copying all the information I need to have a mobile assessment that I can carry around. And so in this case, I have the execution engine for the assessment. I have, which is the, I have the script that I would run when I go to that system. I would just run that job on the system. And this can work for any assessment, whether it be a default assessment in the tools or a custom assessment or custom job you build yourself. So pretty straightforward and pretty easy to test on more than one system. So the next thing I want to do is, well, what if I want to compare systems side by side? I'm going to go back to my View Results tab. Well, here I have one set of results. So just to let you know, each time I run, if I want to rerun this job, each time I run this job, it's going to tack the next set of results onto it. So if I ran this job on this machine again, the next time it brings it up, it's going to show me 2 results, and then 3 results. But the other thing I can do is, what if I want to compare other systems? I can compare jobs side by side by opening results, and we have this picker, and it looks for places where jobs are, or where job results are. So this could be a network share, this could be a directory on the system, this could be a USB key. If I ran this on 10 systems in my network, and I take it back to my machine and I plug it in, I could get a picker that has 10 results on my USB key. So in this case, I'm going to bring up all 3 of these, and I'm going to open them. And you'll see here, I can side by side compare these jobs. And so if I want to compare systems, if I want to do a deeper analysis of each of them, I have the ability to jump into WPA. I have that ability to move back and forth, but now I can do it by jobs that I select. So I'm going to do a brief note about Windows Assessment Service. I'm not going to do a demo of it today because it's frankly far too large to do in a demo like this. But the Windows Assessment Service is for you guys who have large labs, hundreds of PCs, thousands of PCs, or you run system assessments against hundreds of PCs or thousands of PCs. This is a deployment and assessment infrastructure that comes in the ADK that runs on server, that allows you to actually deploy your images and the assessments to measure those images, and then it dumps the results back to a database where you can do comparison, analysis, reporting, overtime analysis. This is for you guys who have large environments. The ability that I demonstrated earlier, works for a lot of people, and it may be big enough for your operation, your work, or the systems you wish to assess. But WAS, or Windows Assessment Service, really takes you much deeper than that. In a fully automated, scripted way, you can actually deploy assessments, deploy images, get results back, label jobs, fully customized environment. Really, really valuable, we think, for larger customers. So let's go a little bit deeper into customizing assessments and workloads. Bring up my machine again. So, as I said earlier, customizing assessments and workloads is really quite easy to create your own view. And so, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, I'll pick the media experience assessment. And the media experience assessment, as we deliver it in the box, contains the streaming media performance assessment that we just ran. It also includes the video playback assessment that we use in WinSat today. So they're, again, leveraging the Windows 7 tools and assessments that we delivered in this new infrastructure. But I'm going to go and I want to configure that. And I want to do more with this assessment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Assessments to add to this job. And I can pick really whatever's relevant to me and what I want in my testing here. So let's say I'm going to add file handling to that. I can also add photo handling. And I don't know what else. I'll scroll down here, and I'll add standby performance. I think it's kind of an odd one to add, but there it is. So pretty quickly, I now have a custom job. I want to add a run note to this. I can add a run note to this that says this, added new assessments. So I can put a run note on this, and this run note will be carried around with the results. So that if I'm looking at a set of results, the run note is a way that I can say, what is unique about this job? Did I add a new assessment? Did I tweak the defaults of an assessment? How much change did I do? I have additional settings I can change here. I can say stop execution on any error. So if it finds a failure, I can say I want to stop running. If I'm using this to help troubleshoot something specific to the system, I can say when you see it, stop running. I can make it run silently, so there's no UX. And then basically keep all temporary files created by the assessment. So obviously when you're running these kind of assessments, these user experience assessments, you're going to create a lot of temporary files. And so I can choose, if I don't want to store those or carry those with me, I can do that if I wanted to. And I can also, as I talked about earlier, I can package this assessment now on a USB key to a network directory, on another machine, elsewhere on this machine. I have the ability to easily do that from within the Windows Assessment Console. When I go back to home, if I bring up the Media Experience Assessment, you're going to notice there's this little line here at the bottom. So I changed one of the inbox assessments. I can save this under its own name, Mike's Custom Assessment, or I can just say on my system, in my Windows Assessment Console, the Media Experience Assessment includes additional tests. And if you notice down here, we have this handy feature that says, if I want to revert that back to the original settings, I can. Easy undo. So the idea is that's your indication that someone's mucked with your assessment. Or something's been added or removed. Something's changed. And so it's very easy to just take it back to where to inbox, in quotes, default. Okay. So we talked a little bit about, I keep going to my demo slide. That was supposed to be up next to the other slide. I apologize. So today we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about a very basic workflow for how to use assessments to measure the entire customer PC experience. And I hope you guys take this information home, use the assessment kit or the assessment tools that exist in the ADK. When you get home, measure your systems, give us feedback, use those tools. Come to the session that Michael Milrood's giving right after this one, where they're going to go really in depth into how WPA can help you troubleshoot your systems at a deep level. There's a number of videos online that you can find that have additional use cases for how to use the assessment console and how to use assessments in more interesting ways. And there's also a contact alias, adkcontact@microsoft.com, if you have any questions or feedback with regards to how you might use these tools. So with that, we have time for questions. I'm that good? There's microphones in the middle, or I can repeat the question into my microphone. I'm not that good. Really? It's the end of the show, everyone's tired? I can't see hands very well, I'm kind of blinded here. One in the back there.
I'm usually asked by customers or some end users once in a while, the assessment you guys make in on their individual computers, exactly how accurate is that? And also it drives people nuts the fact it shows a lower assessment because it's taking the lowest thing instead of maybe an average or something like that.
So I'm going to repeat the question and try to summarize it. If I don't do a good job, put your hand back up. I'll be right under the lights, so I'm having to hold my eyes up here. So the question was, how accurate are our assessments? Because a lot of his customers complain about the accuracy of measures or assessment tools that are out there. And then, secondly, they don't like the fact that it's a lower number when they think it maybe should be more of an average or a middle number. And there's two parts of that. Repeatability of our assessment measures is critical. So accuracy is something that we're striving very hard on. Now, you have a developer preview in the box of tools you've got for this conference. Those assessments are still being tuned heavily. So you might see a variability that's higher than we're accepting. We would like to see a better than 10% variability run over run across multiple runs. That's our goal, and we're working towards that by the time we're done with the toolkit. We haven't achieved that in the assessments you have in the box today. Some assessments are better than others. Some assessments have been out for a while. But we are working very heavily on being accurate and having repeatability, because that's the real value of this. If you're going to go from comparing systems, which you do at a raw level with benchmarks, to actually being able to build better systems and actually analyze and troubleshoot and tweak systems, you need that repeatability. You need to know that when I add an assessment into the mix, I'm getting consistent results so that I can actually take the appropriate actions when those don't work. Now, the second question is, people don't like it when they get measured low, and that causes issues for you and your customer. And that we understand, and that's the benchmark mentality, which is I need to get over the bar, and I want to be way over the bar. If the bar is 1, I want to be 5. If the bar is 5, I want to be 11. And that's where you end up in this dynamic. What we're trying to do is it's about the whole PC experience. It isn't about a number. It's about a series of measures across the entire experience. So, yes, sir? Well, and that's part of how, you're talking about the WinSat score in WinSat where we display the 2.1 number. And that's that black box relevance piece. What does 2.1 really mean? I own WinSat in my team as well as a technology, but what does a 2.1 mean? What does a 5 mean? There are people, for techies like us, it has meaning. And so the way I think you should talk to your customers is run the assessment console on the scenarios that are most important for your customer systems and show them the results across the scenarios that matter most. And you can customize your assessments to build an experience that represents how they use their PCs versus, well, I'm only 2.1 on video, which really, like you said, may not mean anything to that customer. So that's the direction we want to see people take these tools, is when you go in and talk to your customer, build the assessments and customize the assessments as it's appropriate for that customer. If they're a heavy video, audio playback kind of customer because they do training, maybe that's more important. Maybe they never play videos. Maybe they're not allowed to ever have IE up. So maybe browser launch performance may not be as important as file system or network uptime or resume from hibernate time and things like that. So those types of things you can measure and customize and talk to your customer in their language using our assessments as a way to show quality of their experience. Other questions? I'm having a hard time seeing hands. So there's one. I'm staring at lights there.
Yeah, I'm interested. Can I write my own custom assessment?
So there will be documentation provided at RTM at some point in the future on ways in which you can do additional customization of assessments. Mm-hmm. We don't have a full SDK planned for this version, but there will be additional information provided so you can go further than we go in our measures.
Yeah, because I'm really interested in seeing a sensor assessment, part of the sensor experience, mm-hmm. because that's a really difficult thing when you're building a tablet of where you place those sensors, and there's a lot of quality difference between different sets of sensors.
Mm-hmm. And I think you may see additional assessments come online as we continue to develop the product. You'll see additional things come online. Touch is a big one as well that comes up pretty regularly. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, a couple of questions. First one, is this really targeted to OEMs, or are you trying to come up with an industry standard? And if you are, the second question is, if you are trying to aim for an industry standard, I mean, is this something that's going out to the press like NNTech, and are they going to be using it in terms of their platform reviews? And how are you enabling this? What's the availability of it in terms of general availability? Can my non-techie brother can he go and download it from the web as a package and run the assessment and do some sort of online comparison like most benchmarks out there can, using, I don't know, maybe your Azure technology, I guess, on the cloud?
So the industry standard question is an interesting one. I don't think I can really answer that specifically because I don't think that's a goal of what we're trying to do. The net of our strategy is to deliver better Windows 8 PCs. We want to have the best experience possible. Engineering costs a lot. And in this economy, we want to make it easier to engineer the best PCs and the best experience possible. The tools are available to everybody. So yes, your brother could download it. I don't know how relevant it might be to him, but yes, an enthusiast at home could download this, as can a press person, an OEM, a system engineer, an enterprise. So it is available to everybody broadly. We're not driving a specific context because the PC experience is such a personal thing for any business. So how one customer over another customer defines their PC experience is going to change. And so between those businesses. So saying we have a standard way, this one's an 11, then we go back to benchmarking. What we're saying is we're providing tools that people can use to measure their experience as they define it with a lot of flexibility and have relevant results. But it is available to everybody. I don't think this is something that becomes an industry standard because it's not something that, it's so customizable depending on the needs of the given the person using it and the context of the customer and what they're looking for from the tools. So, the engineer at the OEM or at a hardware vendor is going to go much deeper into the tools about troubleshooting and looking at their impact on the system experience versus the enthusiast who's just trying to see that he's got the coolest video card for gaming ever. There's one right there.
Hi. I'm conscious that both NVIDIA, AMD have backed out the BAPCO agreement, which is kind of an existing benchmark that we use. Have you had any dealings with those providers to get their buy-in to this new scheme?
So we've worked with a lot of partners on how we're doing this and what we're doing. This isn't something that's part of certification. This is a value add we're adding in the box for the deployment and assessment tools. So this isn't part of certification. And so our conversations with any vendors or any hardware vendor have been more on the lines of, this will help build better systems on top of your hardware or your software platforms. Because we've also talked to application software writers and OEMs and enterprises and enthusiasts for that matter. So we haven't gone to them with, we need your buy-in to this as a measure. We've asked for their help and with all the hardware across the ecosystem in getting our measures accurate so we get that repeatability and that relevance we need so that when you're measuring the whole PC experience, we know we have that accuracy and that relevance. And so we haven't actually had a buy-in, like a sign-off kind of conversation. It's not that kind of toolkit.
Do you think there's a risk there that if one of those vendors decides that they disagree with the standards that you're measuring and how you're maybe putting weightings behind this, that it compromises the validity of this?
That's a reasonable risk. I hope not. I don't think that, because the goal is about delivering an overall ecosystem quality for Windows 8 PCs, I'm less concerned about it because it's not tied to certification. And that becomes the big differentiator. As soon as you start to tie it to dollars or certification, it becomes a much bigger and different conversation.
Okay, thank you.
The one in the back there, sorry. So the question was, are we going to keep adding scenarios and tests? The answer is absolutely. The kit is not done. This is a developer preview. So I think you'll see changes in the assessments we have in the box and the possibility of adding additional ones. And feedback is important from folks in the audience who are using these tools so that we can understand and get the right information in the kit. So I think you'll see changes. Yes, sir? So yes. So the velocity test kit the velocity tests are, for those of you who don't know what velocity is, it was a set of tools we gave to OEMs to help kind of drive assessments similar to what we're seeing here. Very different toolkit, but similar goals. The velocity tools are wrapped into the Windows 7 identified assessments, and so we have all that information captured in the new infrastructure. Anyone else? I'm having a hard time seeing hands, these bright lights. Okay, well, I guess I'm giving you 5 minutes of your life back. I'll be here for the next few minutes if you have any additional questions. Thank you for your attention, and hope you guys assess your PCs.